Hello folks, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. So, I wanted to let the dust settle a little bit before I made a somewhat more fulsome video about Carl Froch and his recent interview of Conor Benn. Now, we being me and the other guests on Porky's Corner, so it was myself, Andy from Andy's Cavern, James, who appears on Porky's Corner, and Jerry. We were out of the gate very quickly with a light-hearted but yet serious. I mean, we had fun, but we were serious about what we were talking about, if that makes sense. Porky's Angels show. And we roasted the Cobra a little bit because we all felt that Carl Froch had not asked Conor Benn meaningful questions. Since then, I wanted to let things, settle down a little bit. And I've listened to a number of people appear on Porky's Corner. I haven't appeared, but a number of people have appeared. Andy has appeared, James has appeared, Anthony Austin has appeared, Ryan has appeared, and we've all sort of been listening to each other a little bit. And myself and a few of the guys are on various WhatsApp discussion groups, and we've been talking more seriously back and forth. So I thought I would let the dust settle, as it were, before I made my own, more serious video. So Carl Froch, who has a stellar reputation as a world champion boxer, an almost impeccable resume, clearly a very accomplished athlete, very accomplished business person as well. I understand that he's a real property developer type person. Appears to have a lovely family. His wife Rachel seems very, very, very lovely person, and I understand that he's got everything you could possibly want in the world. And he's got a very successful boxing YouTube channel, of which I was an early viewer, I guess, an early subscriber, I suppose. And I've really, really, really enjoyed his approach. I particularly liked when he and his wife would have a question and answer session. She would ask questions that viewers had written in. And then I noticed that there was a change. Most notably for me, he went from being highly critical of a lack of atmosphere in Saudi Arabia at these big Riyadh shows, right? He was very critical of the lack of atmosphere, or perceived lack of atmosphere, I suppose, is what he was saying. He was also very critical about the Saudi national anthem being played in Wembley Stadium, and he was just generally critical of the Saudi productions, I suppose. Well, all that seemed to change, and it changed quite dramatically. Mr. Froch went out to Saudi Arabia, and he came back and his views had, changed, sort of almost 180 from what they were. Now, I don't fault him for that. Lots of times you will think, oh, that place just doesn't look right, or I don't want to go there, or it's crappy, or you've got second or third hand information. And you go there and you go, wow, this is really nice, right? It happened to me. Last year, I think, I'd not been to Santa Monica Pier. And I looked online and people were saying, oh, it's really shitty now, it's crappy, it's a lot of homeless people and druggies, and And so I was a little bit apprehensive. I went there and I thought, wow, this is really fun, it's nice, I enjoyed it, I liked it, So I don't criticize Carl for that. But it was noticeable that from that point on, he had nothing negative to say about Saudi or the lack of atmosphere. And then he interviewed Turki al-Sheikh. And it seemed that, al-Sheikh sort of dominated the interview. Okay, well, it is what it is, right? And then he interviewed, I think it was Ben Whittaker. And he didn't seem to want to press him or ask him questions about basically, did you quit in the fight with Liam Cameron? And I thought, well, it's, again, I don't really know, right? But then he had this opportunity with Conor Benn, who has never explained how clomiphene got into his system. And I really thought that there would be more asked, that he would sort of try to drill down. And he didn't. I mean, as I said in a very short video I did after the event, he asked really innocuous kinds of questions. And I'm wondering, why all these things have happened. Mr. Froch has great credibility in the boxing community, legions of fans, of course, and he has a presence, a successful media presence. And I'm wondering, perhaps he may have sold Froch on Fighting. Maybe he doesn't own it anymore. Maybe it's been bought, possibly by Turki al-Sheikh as another media outlet, just like he's bought the Ring magazine. So right now you're not going to read anything negative in the Ring magazine about Turki al-Sheikh and Saudi Arabia, right? And I was wondering, is it possible that he has purchased the Ring magazine? I also thought then that he's kept Carl on as sort of like a front man, if you like, like an employee. And I was wondering also, is it possible that Carl Froch has been bullied in some way? I mean, it sounds silly, former super middleweight champion being bullied, but there's lots of ways that people can be got at, I suppose. And I was also thinking like, well, maybe Conor Benn's handlers, Matchroom Boxing, whatever, had said to Carl Froch, well, you can't ask these questions. And then I thought, well, if somebody says you can't ask the questions, well, you have to then sort of say, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it worth doing an interview of Conor Benn when you can't ask the most meaningful questions? Sort of like I've been reading a book recently about the last US election, and before Kamala Harris would agree to go on the Joe Rogan podcast, apparently there was some back and forth about location and things, and Joe Rogan is basically, no, you've got to come to my studio and there's nothing off limits. Apparently that's the deal. Like if you go on his show, you can't say, oh, I don't want to talk about this or I don't want to talk about that. And I was wondering, like, if Conor Benn went on the show and said, well, you can't ask me anything about clomiphene or any of the failed drug tests, then why would Carl Froch, why would he agree to that? Because by not asking those questions, he's sort of damaged his own integrity, I suppose, in the eyes of fans. And certainly if you look at the interview, which is only 13 minutes long, so it strikes me that there's probably at least another 13 minutes or so that have ended up on the cutting room floor. I would have thought that he would have had the power to say, well, look, if you're going to cut my interview and cut all these good questions out, then I don't want you to air it at all. Because I'm still sort of confused. Initially I was just sort of really disappointed, but I'm wondering if there's something deeper going on. Anyways, just my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Please like, please share, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.